Okay. Hello, everyone. Good evening. Thank you for joining us. Good afternoon or good morning, depending on when you're listening to this. This is the 49th of hopefully many episodes of bardadvice at D&D slash nerd space slash TTRPG slash life advice podcast, where I, Charles Chaz Yazik, the DM, the bard, however you may know me, do my best to answer said questions. Hope that everybody's doing well and has had a good week. We just finished Thanksgiving here if you're in the Americas, the United States. That's when we do our Thanksgiving, was yesterday. Good to see all of the old regular friends. Hello, Amanda, Rocco, River, Flint, Chris, Avram, Bird, all the old friends. Bean. Oh, and Yokai, glad that you were able to catch the stream live. We have a question of yours this evening, so perfect timing. Hope that everybody's doing all right. Before we get started, at the top of the show, we do like to remind everyone to please send all questions, queries, complaints, criticisms to bardadvice@gmail.com. It also looks like bardadvice. Please feel free to send questions about anything, really. And more importantly, I just want to emphasize this because I was speaking about it with Pirate, friend of the pod, within the last week. I do want to have guests on, but in order to do that, I need questions for them. So if you have specific questions or questions you just be curious the answers to for people like Lance, Sarah, Waylon, and Justin, please send those in, because when I get them, I can set them aside for those episodes later when we do the guests, and then we'll have some content for that. If you do want to get any merchandise, you can do so at manshorts.com. Don't have the specifics on the dice yet, but they are coming soon this holiday season, so keep your eyes and ears open. And if you'd like to contribute to anything that I'm doing musically, notably my third album, which just released, you could do so at PayPal, Cash App, or Venmo, all of which are Yazik, Y-A-H-Z-I-C-K. Which actually leads us into our art corner for the week, which is about my new album. So, if you weren't aware, my new album, Organized Lightning, is now available on all platforms wherever you listen to music. Now, it is technically available on YouTube, but you'll notice that the title and the channel of my content on YouTube, for the music at least with the albums, is for some reason set up for another channel, a Korean channel. Not sure how that happened, where the wires got crossed with my distributor, but I'm in the process of moving everything from that channel over to my actual Yazik channel. But in the meantime, you can listen to Organized Lightning anywhere else. I also have updated the track listing here from the last time that we spoke about it to designate that Song Aria was indeed featured with Follow. He helped me build that song out, and I was really happy with it. Be excited to hear what everybody thinks about the album, if you're enjoying it. I worked hard on it, and kind of it took longer than it should have, but that's, I don't know, maybe it took about as long as it was supposed to, because that seems to be the trend with my albums, is that they take way too long. I'm now a K-pop channel. Hey, listen, I don't have anything against that. Yeah, I don't know what that's about. It's some wires are crossed somewhere. I think it has to do with the fact that I never actually established my Yazik YouTube channel as my YouTube channel through my distributor. But I'm in the process of figuring that out. And in the interim, I'm going to probably be uploading the full album onto my channel just so it's there for people to listen to if and they want to. You could talk wrestling with Jay the whole hour. Sheesh, I could talk wrestling for an hour with Jay. We could do a whole wrestling podcast. Doing better than Mississippi Valley did against the Lady Gamecocks. Not familiar, but good for them. I'll give it a listen after we're done. Oh, cool, thank you. Well, I hope that everybody enjoys it if they listen to it. So yeah, that's Art Corner. Go check out... Oh no, I didn't mean to do this. Go check out Organized Lightning. And let me know what you think. All right, so... let me close Premiere, because I did not mean to open that program. And then let's get into some questions. So we've got 6 questions this evening, and a couple of them are long-winded, but that's fine with me, because I'm long-winded. So listen, the whole album is fire. Oh, good, I'm glad. I'm glad you enjoy it. Lots of football over 2 days. Oh, yeah, that's true. There has been football going on. Oh, man. All right. So let's kick things off with the first question. Oh, and that's a good note before we do that. Pirates dropped an invite to the Discord. in the chat. So if you're in the chat and you're not in the Discord and you want to be in the Discord, hop in there. It's mostly just memeing around art stuff and just lots of funnies and stuff. So, and I'm usually in there a little bit after the podcast. We hang out for a little bit and chat. So feel free to pop in. Okay, so let's get into it. The first question this evening is from Leonard, because that's what the list of names says. And Leonard asks, "Hello, Charles. I hope you and the Man Shorts crew had a great Turkey Day. My friends and I are starting a new campaign. In the past, most of my characters have been spellcasters, warlocks, and sorks. I'd like to try a new class since I'm an outdoorsy person IRL. I want this character to reflect that. Between Ranger and Druid, which do you think is more connected to nature, and how do their abilities work within it? Thank you." Alrighty. Well, thank you for the question, Leonard. So you spent most of your D&D background, wizards and sorks, probably just like full spellcasters. And the classes that you mentioned, well, it could be argued that Druid's a full spellcaster, and you could certainly play it like one. But the ones that you mentioned are more kind of hybrid, so they're not full-on martial classes. But a Druid can most certainly be played as a hybrid or as a full spellcaster. So let's talk about it. Let's look at what chat's saying. River says Druid's definitely the most connected to nature. It's full caster. Bean says Druid. Flint says Druid. So it looks like the overwhelming consensus from chat is Druid. I think that Druid Ranger, that's a good point. Yeah, you could always multi-class it, depending on how many levels you have to work with. So let's talk about it. I made some notes. Rangers are hunter trackers. So they get stuff like favorite enemy, bonuses on terrain. They're kind of like, I mean, technically they're half spellcasters, but they're really like quarter spellcasters. Like, let's be real. Rangers, I think, are mostly played like fighter rogues with some spellcasting. I mean, you could argue that an Eldritch Knight fighter is more of a spellcaster than a ranger, just like a base ranger. But Ranger, depending on the spell, depending on the edition too, because I know that Rangers in 3.5 got, base Rangers in 3.5 got companions, whereas in 5e I think that's more of like a subclass thing, which is a little bit annoying. But Druids are insanely strong. You can tank some serious damage with Wild Shape, and you can sling spells. Yeah, that was actually a point something I was going to point out in terms of playing it at like hybrid, because like if you're a Druid and you're Wild Shaping, you essentially can be a tank. And in 3.5, you can run a Druid and your companion, so you can essentially run two tanks if you're Wild Shaping into something like a bear. Yeah, so Druids are nature itself, is what I put. So I guess I'm in the same camp as chat. They have the ability to Wild Shape. They can communicate with animals. They're closer to... they're closer to half casters, but can be played as full casters. They really are full casters, but I only say that because like most Druids that I've ever played, I've kind of played as a hybrid, like martial and spellcasting. So that's just to say that I think you can do both with them. Their Rangers focus on survival, tracking, and combat with a few spells. Druids are spellcasters with a wider array of nature-based magic. And I also said consider the character's backstory. So if you want to make it something that's more of like what your own, I would say think about your own connection to the outdoors. Flint says Ranger's the outdoorsman, Druid is nature. Yeah, that's kind of how I feel about it. Like, if you wanted a character that was kind of close to like you as just like a regular person, that's probably more of a Ranger, because it's like, it's almost like a human interacting with nature. As opposed to Druid, right? Like, regardless of the race, it's more like you're a part of nature. And, you know, we can split hairs. Humans are part of nature too, obviously. But I think overall, Rangers, it's almost as if like Rangers excel in nature and Druids are kind of already in there. So I think it also depends on what you want to do, because you mentioned that your background is warlocks and sorks. If you want to do more spell casting, that's more points for Druid, because again, Ranger spell casting is pretty limited, and even the spell casting they get is really kind of stuff that helps them with martial stuff. So it's like, you know, what do Rangers get? Like, what's the X marks the spot thing, Hunter's Mark or whatever. That's something that is, I mean, I guess that's encouraging of any kind of attack, but I don't know, it just feels very much like you mark an enemy and then you run up and attack them. Druid Monk is a fun combo. If you want to go outdoorsman, I'd throw Barbarian into the mix too. Yeah, you could do a Druid Barbarian, that would be fun. Fury of Bear Claws. Thought they wanted to get away from heavy spellcasting. Oh, that's a good point, Jay. Yeah, if you want to get away from all the spellcasting, then Ranger. It's kind of a toss-up. I can see why you asked the question. Yeah, Ranger is more different from Sork and Warlock than Druid is. So if the main goal is to try something different, go Ranger. Because with that, you'll focus more on martial stuff, and there'll be a little bit of spellcasting stuff that you understand, but it'll be a new interesting thing for you to kind of combine the spellcasting with the martial, with melee stuff, or ranged attacks, as opposed to Druid, where you'd be pretty much magic focused. Druid Warlock with a Nature Pact. Hunter's Mark and Hail of Thorns. Oh yeah, Hail of Thorns. Gith Bear Totem Barbarian. Yeah, that would be cool. Bear Totem Barbarian Druid. That'd be fun. So something's in there for you, I think, Leonard. I didn't, I guess, give you a really hard answer as to which I would do. If I were you, I would, and the goal was to do something different, I would do Ranger. I think that Druid is closer to, because your question was, which do you think is more connected to nature? And we talked about that. I think it's the Druid. But I think if one of your main concerns is trying something different and switching it up a little bit than what you're used to, go Ranger. I think that that'll give you more chance to see what it's like to fight without spells, or at least without so many. Warlock is very connected to an aspect of nature, or at least can be. True. And I think that that's true of any characters. I thought about that when I was reading this. It's like, well, I mean, depending on the subclass and the character's backstory, anybody could be really connected to nature. All right. Let's keep moving. Thank you for the question, Leonard. I hope you found something in there that's to value to answer the question. I think we got it. I think there's something in there for you. If you're wanting to get away from spellcasting, go Ranger. If it's fighter with all the junk the fighter has piled up to pick from. It's true. Yeah, I like Rangers. Tantor Mantar was a Ranger. I think Rangers are underrated, honestly. I think Druids are rated just right. But I think Rangers are slightly underrated. But that's just like my opinion, man. Let's move on to the next question, according to the list of names, is from Yokai Lover, who I believe is in chat. So let's go through it. This is one of the long-winded questions. Again, no judgment. But they were actually kind of fun to make, because like we have 2 questions tonight that are 3 frames. So let's go. Yokai asks, I apologize in advance for the long email. I tend to over-explain stuff. I included that on purpose because I totally relate. Quick story for my first PC 3.5 homebrew setting, Gestalt. Also, for anyone who doesn't know, Gestalt is essentially, when you play D&D, you have a class. If you want a multi-class, then you would take levels in that class, and as such, if you were like a level 3 Druid and you wanted to take a class in Warlock, you would take level 1 as a Warlock, so you would technically be a level 4 character, 3 levels of Druid and 1 of Warlock. Gestalt allows you to take all of the aspects from each level of classes. So if you were a 3rd level Gestalt character, Druid, Warlock, you would have all of the aspects from all 3 levels of Druid and all 3 levels of Warlock. So just wanted to clarify that. Gestalt. Wanted to be a badass librarian, so I went rogue archivist. Nice. I ended up being the main healer. That's tracks. By the end, we were taking so much DPR, the DM gave me the ability to use sneak attack dice when I healed with cure spells. Long story short, I was hooked and haven't stopped playing since. From listening to bardadvice, I think my group is a little unusual. We play weekly, alternating DMs. Most weeks I bring some kind of homemade cookies. Nice. One of the campaigns is being run by a different player. One of our usual 2 DMs needed a break. I must admit I'm struggling a bit. The campaign is a homebrew 3.5, which I'm fine with, but one of the restrictions for character creation was only psionic classes. Only 2 of the 6 players have played psionics before. I'm not one of them. Any thoughts on psionics and how to work with them? I'm a soul knife if that helps. Also, while I agree with your first advice on communication, this particular person and I have had some friction IRL. We kind of ignore it for the sake of the game, but I don't know how comfortable I am bringing it up. Big thank you to you and your fellow actors and crew. Well, thank you for the question. No need to apologize as to being long-winded. I'm King Long-Winded. That's me. Captain talks too much. So don't worry about it. So psionics, I don't have a whole lot of direct experience with psionics in 3.5. I remember them. And I think I remember a couple of years ago them adding it to 5e, and there was a big hubbub about like, oh, they have psionics in 5e now. Yes, Flint, this is a 3.5 psionics game. So, okay. Let's talk about it. I think that psionics is really just like, in the simplest terms, I think that that psionics are essentially like a combination of like monk key points and spells. So I think the easiest way to look at it is like if it's a spellcast, as a spellcaster, right, you have X number of psionic points per day that you can use to cast spells. There are feats and abilities that allow you to cast without cost, which is like, I mean, essentially cantrips. Or you can take martial feats, i.e. power attack, which those kind of things would serve you as a soul knife, because a soul knife is essentially like you have like a packed weapon, right? Soul knife's just like, you know, they make their weapon appear, and then they can use it as such, either melee or ranged. I said, honestly, most of the confusion probably stems from a lot of the wording in a lot of the stuff that I was at least reading through. It seems like it's just like over-explained. So it seems overcomplicated, but it's really just as if someone created a spell book that any class could use. So I'm thinking of the Mystic UA. Oh, am I? Is the Aegis in 3.5? I know it's a thing. Huh. Hold on a second. Let me catch up with chat and make sure that I'm not like totally making stuff up. Psionics can get weird sometimes. I tend to avoid them unless I'm throwing a mind flayer at the party. With DM restrictions of picnics and friction, you will need help. This may not be a good game for you. It's true. If you're not enjoying it, what I was gonna say is, I'd say overall I would address it. Perhaps you could recruit one of the other 4 players who've never played before to either have them bring it up or you all bring it up together. It seems like this is something that coulda, woulda, shoulda been would have been handled in session 0, but those sessions things can get overlooked with excitement to start. But I mean, even if you had a session where you just kind of sat down and talked about it and to make sure that everybody was on the same page, because I can't imagine that no one else is struggling if they've never used them before. But I put, like, think of the Mystic UA caused a row because it was OP, and then they scrapped a Mystic in favor of defying Psionics up in subclass for 5e. Ah. Nomadic Arrow was broken when it was first released. Well, either way, I know that, you know, you mentioned communication and how it's not easy with that person. I would say then look to the other people in the group that also probably don't know what they're doing. For a couple of reasons. For one, because one of the reasons I bring up communication is that a lot of stuff just gets unsaid. And depending on your personality type, like I'm the kind of person that like wouldn't say something, which is why I encourage people to say something, because I deal with those kind of consequences all the time where it's like, should have said something, should have brought it up. You would have saved a lot of time. And maybe it's a thing where the people that do know what they're doing aren't interested in taking extra time to explain it. And then so, you know, maybe to the point earlier is that like it might just not be a game for you. Which is okay as well, by the way. That's another point that I was going to make. Like, it's okay if this game isn't a fit. It sounds like, you know, you mentioned your group is a little weird in the way that you play. Actually, I think that your group is playing it the way it was supposed to be played. You have a big group, rotating DMs and players. People just kind of show up when they're able to. My only real experience with Psionics is in Pathfinder 1, so I don't know what was brought from 3.5 or not. What about a group text? That might be a little easier than chatting in person. True, yes. I think that recruiting the others or going to the others first is going to be easiest. Just because, again, I talk about all the time how, like, just bringing something up might change everything. Because you might say to somebody, like, hey, I don't really know what's going on. And then they would be like, oh, me neither. I have no clue. Let's ask the DM. And then now you have a friend to do it with. Or multiple people, which also makes it easier. Because you have a little bit of, like, a, you know, not like an army, but you know what I mean? Like, you've got solidarity there of other people that are like, yeah. And even if they understand things, they might be able to help you. They might be able to be like, oh, yeah, no, actually, you got to do this and that and the other. So just because you don't get along with the DM, I would say don't let that immediately discourage you from not bringing this up, specifically with the other players, because I think that they can help you. And then, because I'm the type of person that, like, if somebody said to me that they were confused with what's going on, but they didn't want to talk about it to the DM, I'm the type of person that would just do it for them. I'd be like, oh, bet. Well, I'm a little confused too, so we'll make it my problem. So you'll never know that unless you give people the opportunity to do that, thus the communication with the others. But, you know, some of the things I noted was just, you know, like the psionic points kind of work like schools of magic. Or a group Discord, better yet, if you don't have one already. Yeah. Anything with text where you don't have to talk or see the person face to face, any of that stuff that you can knock out, that's good. At some point, we're supposed to continue the adventures of Mustang Peppercorn. Oh boy, yeah, that's got to keep that going. Okay, so let's keep moving because I think that there's an answer in there. Yeah. I think bring it up with the other players. And then bring it up with the DM if you have to. Worst case scenario, you just bow out. And you just, I'm not playing this. I'll play the next one. It's totally fine to do. That's one of actually my favorite things about my mom that my mom taught me was that it's okay to leave. That's a you know, it seems kind of silly, but it's a real thing, you know. Like the social pressure is real. Regardless of what the relationship is with the person. And if there's already some friction, it's like, you know, it can be daunting. But yeah, it's okay to leave. It's okay to just bail and grab a parachute and bounce. You know, you're just a human. Already introduced a Peppercorn in his last week's Man Shorts. That's true. That's true. I did introduce Thelonious Peppercorn into the family. And on that, as I try and build out, like, I'm going to try and start making supplemental content, those peppercorns are going in there. Better to bow out instead of starting a fight. Yeah. So I'd say kind of take the temperature with the party. Ask. See what's going on. See where everybody's head's at. See if there's a route for you to get to what you need to, which is to, in my opinion, either be out of the situation entirely or improve the situation that currently exists. So, you know, just bring it up, do your best to just, like, address it. And if they're not feeling it and you're still not feeling it, just, you got an extra day a week. That's an extra slot of time you could fill with another game that you do enjoy or something totally unrelated. You time, you know? I love when that kind of stuff happens. Oh, dude, when stuff gets canceled, that's like when I'm at my happiest. For real. I mean, obviously, if it's like something that I was really looking forward to, but it's rare. A lot of times, if it's like an event or something that I have to go to, it's like, oh, and then it gets canceled, and it's like, yo, I got a whole day. I could do whatever I want. It's good. So, if it sucks, hit the bricks. Yeah, I tend to agree. So, all right. Well, thank you for the question, Yokai. I'm glad that you were able to be here live. Hopefully, between me and chat, the recommendations, you've got a little bit more in your arsenal moving forward. You can hopefully address that issue. Let's move along. We've got this next question is from Jeffrey. So let's talk about this question. Jeffrey asks, Bard, long-time watcher, first-time writer, got a problem. Hope you can help. Suggested die RPG to an acquaintance I know IRL, Pete. Turns out he is also an internet acquaintance on a Discord run by a real-life best friend. Pete advertises for players. We Q&A back and forth on Discord. Best friend tells Pete I'm an agent of chaos. Meanwhile, Pete is telling me IRL what a great person internet me is. I need advice on if I should tell Pete who I am. I'm pretty sure he won't find out unless I tell him. Also, how should I tell him? I don't want my antics to ruin the game or cause problems in my relationship with Pete, as we also work together. All right, well, thank you for the question, Jeffrey. I gotta say, a bit confusing. Took me a couple of times to read it, and I wrote it when I put it on this thing. So, a little confusing. Perhaps your best friend is not completely wrong in claiming that you're an agent of chaos, just based on this general situation. Although no negative judgment. It's just more of an observation of just like, well, this scenario that you've described is a bit chaotic. So go full chaos gremlin and don't tell him, let him find out the hard way. I will say the intrusive thought, like the the id in me is like, don't say anything, and just, if it happens, it happens, and if not, you know, almost maybe see how long you could do it. If you just went like 3 years this way and then one time the worlds collided, his head would explode. Although I don't think that would be the right thing to do. It would be fun. I'd be willing to bet that when you say to Pete that you're an agent of chaos, he'll say, I know, that's why we're friends. Yeah, that's true. So this is what I put. I said, I think that you probably should tell him. Just because, to your point about it being someone that you work together with, that's always, working with somebody and playing with them, I guess I get what you're saying. So it's like you don't want to you don't want your in-game personality to make him dislike you IRL. But it sounds like he likes you either way. So, wow, so many people in chat are saying don't say anything. To keep it quiet and appear as two separate people. Surprise, it was me, Dio. Yeah. I will say it would be an incredibly satisfying reveal if you ever decided to do it, or if it just happened organically. Like if it was just like he just found out one time. Carry a rouse for 3 years, that's a bit much. Carry a ruse for 3 years, that's a bit much. Really depends on the personality of the receiver. Yeah, I think, I mean, how well do you know this person is, I think, a part of it too. Because the other thing to consider is that, like, when the person ultimately finds out, right, whether or not it's from you, that's going to be weird. And the longer that it's gone on, the weirder it's going to be. Because I got to say, if I was communicating with somebody online and in real life, and it was going on for like 6 months, and then after 6 months I found that out, that would be a lot for me to deal with. That would be a lot, especially when you consider like how different the interactions are. Maybe they already know, Ron said. That's true. That's true. It could be, what's that in that episode of Friends, that bit when they're like, they don't know we know, they know we know. Right? Like, maybe Pete knows. And he's pulling one over on you. Huh? That could be. And you wouldn't know, would you? Maybe Pete knows. Or maybe you know that Pete knows. But does Pete know that you know that he knows? See, this is where it gets confusing, and why typically I think it's just easier for everyone involved to just be transparent with what's going on. So in terms of telling him, I said when is just as important as how. It's probably better to tell him at work rather than telling him online. You can explain that you noticed it and you wanted to be transparent, so you could do it as a thing where it's like, hey, I didn't realize this, but I'm just letting you know moving forward. You don't have to go into how long you've known about that. You could also, I said also, if you wanted to like soften the blow or like, make it a thing where you didn't want to disrupt the other person, didn't want to disrupt your relationship, you could always like throw your best friend in there, because that's a best friend move. You could say that the best friend like was the one that told you or the one that found out, and then that way the focus is kind of shifted and it's not as weird of a thing. Let's see. Tell your friend at work that you know your online persona too. Oh, that'd be really funny. And then you make it way complicated. And then you just like, say things to him about the other in each interaction. Tell Pete you know who he is online and refuse to elaborate. Or you could just ask him, hey, are you X online? The dreaded triple double triple switchback switcheroo. That's why Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers. Indeed. No worries, Kirk. Welcome. You're never too late if you're here. So I would say, you're going to have to tell him. Just try and be honest and try and make it like not weird. I think that the choice is ultimately yours, Jeffrey, if you wanna drag it out. But it sounds like you want to tell him and you just wondered about how to do it. I think it's better to do it in person if you can, if you're up to it. And just, try and make it as casual as possible. Just be like, hey, man, so I just wanted to tell you, like, I noticed this the other day, and just for full transparency, like, that's me online. Like, I didn't realize that it was you until recently or whatever, and so then it's not that big of a deal. Because it really isn't. I would say that overall, like, the longer you drag it out, the bigger of a deal it will be. So keep that in mind in your decision making. Like, if you want to do a bit, that's cool. But the longer the bit goes on, the bigger the fallout likely will be from the reveal when they find out. Because that's weird stuff, man. If I found out after a year that somebody online and somebody in person were the same thing, same person, that would really throw me. If there's an inside joke online, maybe crack that joke in IRL. Yeah, most definitely. Also, like, if you haven't really, I wonder how long you've been playing, or if you've even started, because that would be bizarre. I don't think I could get away with that. I feel like I would give myself away too easily. I feel like I'm just too open about stuff in general, and I just have too many idiosyncrasies of things I do and say that, like, people would be able to spot me immediately if I actively tried to pretend to be somebody online versus somebody in real life. I feel like it wouldn't last long. People would be like, "Oh, this is totally Chaz." No, who else would say this? So, all right. Well, I think you got something in there, Jeffrey. Tell him at work. Just be honest. Don't make it weird. Or alternatively, make it a bit, but be prepared for what's going to happen for you. Alchemist Fire would give me away. That's true. You could talk about your campaign work when prompted about your weekend. Oh, yeah. That would be funny, too. That actually would be a fun, interesting way to do it, is if it was just in casual conversation. It was like, hey, so what'd you do this weekend? And it's like, oh, man, we killed this monster or whatever. And it just, like, see the gears turning. All right. Let's keep moving. We've got 3 more questions, and then we'll do a little chat, as we tend to do. The next question is not as long-winded. This one is from Amanda. And Amanda has, there's another question that you'd submitted, and it's like a longer, more in-depth question. I'm going to get to that probably next week. But I thought that this one would be good to talk about this week just because it's been on my mind in terms of streaming. So here we go. This is from Amanda. Amanda asks, do you and Justin have any plans to do a Man Shorts plays with different video games? I really enjoyed watching y'all play Oblivion and Mirror's Edge. I don't play video games, but I watched my husband play and loved watching y'all play. Well, thank you for the question. Yes, the short answer is yes. Now, I don't know that it's going to look, I don't know what it's going to look like yet, because I'm still kind of running numbers and also kind of building things out from a perspective, like from a production standpoint on that. But I do want to start streaming and playing stuff. Yeah, it's just a thing that I need to do, because it's not so much that I have a lot of free time as much as it's just that I have these times where I find myself like gaming or just kind of doing that stuff. It's like, I should really just be streaming this. Been playing Baldur's Gate 3 weekly for the last couple of months, and if you've seen on the channel, I've got like kind of like a cut up clip compilation of that, where it's just like the funniest stuff, but not really done anything where we like live stream, and I really want to get back into that. I don't know if I'm going to be doing it on here or if I'm going to be doing it on Twitch, or maybe some sort of a combination of both, where I'm doing it on Twitch and then it is being moved over to, maybe like the VODs are on YouTube or something. But regardless, yes. And not just Baldur's Gate 3, but I was also looking, there's a lot of stuff on sale on Steam right now. I was thinking about grabbing stuff like Cyberpunk. Assassin's Creed Valhalla I saw is on sale, which is I haven't played yet because I'm a couple years behind on those games, but I love the Assassin's Creed games. So videos are a little short. Okay, I hear that, Avram. We'll look into making them a little bit longer. I'm sure I think that this one I'm working on this week is actually going to end up being a bit longer, so that'll be good. Behind on the times and just watch the playthrough of Until Dawn. I don't do horror, but edging my way with the lights on all over the house. Yeah, I feel that. I mean, I'm the master of like spooking myself out in the dark. You could your whole group Monopoly Edition or Poker Edition. How come bardadvice doesn't post upcoming show thumbnails? I don't know how that works. I don't know how to do that. Zoo Mafia, unfamiliar. Yeah, there's a lot of cool stuff on Steam that I want to play. I'd be down for like an Elden Ring run. I'm really, really bad at those kind of games, though. Justin's not great either, so it might actually end up looking like me and Cody, too. Cody is one of the players on the Baldur's Gate 3 compilation videos we've been posting. He plays Dew. And Ryan, the guy that is running PAX, mentioned that that Cody and I have a good chemistry, and I tend to agree. I think a lot of the funny moments are with me and Cody. I mean, Ryan's really funny, too. It's not to discredit him, but I don't know. Like I said, I don't know exactly what it's going to work like yet because I'm still kind of like working it out in my head and also kind of talking with people. Got to figure out a schedule, and then that has to work in with my existing schedule, and so everything always seems like being more of a everything ends up being a bigger deal than you think it's going to be in terms of production, in my experience, where it's like, oh, that's easy, and then it's like, well, actually, that's 7 hours a week. Which is not a lot, but, what are those other 7 hours a week currently filled with? Or are they empty? So just a lot of questions to figure it out. But the short answer is, yeah, we're going to start bringing that stuff back. I want to start playing more and make the channel more of just like a gaming in general channel. Maybe we'll figure out a way to set it up to do a campaign once more as well. But everybody that plays D&D knows how hard it is to get everybody together to play D&D. Everyone sucks at FromSoft games when they first play them. That's part of the fun. You struggle at first and then eventually you get good. Yeah, maybe. We'll see. I don't know. That was certainly the case when I ran, what the heck is that? What's the Battle Royale? I guess it's Call of Duty. Modern Warfare or whatever. Warzone. The Battle Royale game. I definitely got better at that over time. I was really, really, really bad when I started, and then eventually I was like, towards the end I was able to snipe, but then it just kind of got boring. The Ghost Gun gang of ghouls got you gagging while they're giggling gloriously behind the giant Ghost Goblin General. Whoa. What kind of surpass your limits here and now? I've liked Baldur's Gate 3 a lot. It's been real fun, and I want to do a Flim Flam run through. So, and actually, that's what I said in the note, and it's the first time I've said it since I asked the question. I'm going to start streaming Baldur's Gate 3 as Flim Flam. Justin is likely going to at some point join that as Razzle Dazzle. And then other characters as well. But yeah, I really just kind of want to repeat what we've done with the campaign, but just have more of it available for, just kind of stream the whole thing and then, continue to release the clips or the, the shortened versions of them, but have it live stream where people can kind of be involved with it because it's way fun. Still in Mario, an original NES type of playing person. Oh yeah, well hey, we can relate to that. I've got a Sega at my house. I was just at my sister-in-law's for Thanksgiving yesterday, and she had a Sega at her house. So most definitely, that's millennial stuff, I think. But thank you for the question. I'm glad you brought it up, actually, because I was going to mention it anyway. And that's why I kind of plugged the question in, because it was a perfect time to talk to people about how I want to start doing that more. So if you have questions about that, you can always send it to bardadvice@gmail.com or message on the Discord, whatever. You can reach me there, too. All right. Two more got pulled AFK and they have no idea what we're talking about now. Well, we were just talking about streaming and about how we're going to bring back Flim Flam in Baldur's Gate 3 and then maybe elsewhere. Ooh, maybe we do a Cyberpunk Flim Flam run. Or a Starfield one. How's Starfield? Anybody playing that, by the way? I've heard great things. But then again, you know, people that are playing it are probably like the real big fans anyway, so it's a bit biased. It'd be like asking me about Oblivion. Like, oh, it's the greatest game ever made. And then if you played it, maybe not so much, who knows? Is anybody playing Starfield? Is that a thing? Is that MMO in any way? It's kind of meh. Well, that's disappointing. I've been hearing things about that, and then somebody was talking about No Man's Sky recently, and then also Cyberpunk. I've heard. I keep bringing up Cyberpunk because they fixed it, right? Well, I mean, obviously they fixed it from when it was like the big mess up when it got released, but didn't they just do like a big update on like all of their vehicles and stuff in Cyberpunk? So that's cool. Oh, and also GTA, which is it going to be in 25? Or is it, I mean, is it going to be in 24 or 25? I know that they're announcing it like next, I mean, they've technically announced it, but the trailer's like first week of December. Cyberpunk is better than it was on release, and the new DLC is fantastic. Okay, cool. And Assassin's Creed, yeah, I definitely want to think about doing that too, because the Valhalla is on sale for like $15 or something, and it's like, I might have to cop that for real, because I've been finishing up Odyssey, the one in Greece. I'm like, I think like on the last mission. I've kind of like put it off while I do other stuff, but because I don't want it to end. It's been real fun. But it'd be fun to run Valhalla and just like stream it all. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth in February. Whoa, what? What's that now? Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, you say? What are they just like? Is that how many times have they? Hold on. Is that like the first like big re-release of that game? What's that going to be on? Is it going to be exclusive to PS5? Built the Millennium Falcon in Starfield, but once I did, it was kind of over it. Oh, that's disappointing. I feel that way about that Harry Potter game. I feel like that I was like so hyped when that game came out, and then I put like 60 hours into it, and then it was like, I don't think I played it since. I like when I started, I was like, oh man, I'm gonna make a character from all the houses and run through it all. And it's like I played through it once, and it was just like, it's a bit disappointing. So not as disappointing as like the new 2Ks, and the new sports games are just so bad. They're just worse every time. Zoo Mafia is an RPG version of the movie Madagascar in a gangster mobster setting. Well, I'm sold. Jeez. All right. We got to keep moving because we got 2 more questions. Please do, Egret Chill. That'd be great. All right, so this next question, according to the list of names, is from Timothy. And Timothy asks, first of all, big fan. Been following since the Rad Mind of Yazix, long time, and have loved everything you've put out since. Also, watching you play D&D has been awesome. Well, thank you. That's very nice. Anyway, onto the question. I'm building a homebrew world, and with it, one homebrew subclass that will be an option in this world. Many more would come, but here's the general premise. Rogue subclass, so all things that come with rogue, but at any level where you would get a roguish archetype, you instead may choose a feature from any class or subclass that gains a feature at that level. This would be for levels 3, 9, 13, and 17. Excuse me, you cannot choose features that are not given at specific levels, i.e. Barbarian Rage or Druid Wild Shape. You must take a feature that is given at the same level for the roguish archetype. In some weird way, that limiting factor creates a subtle self-balancing. This subclass couldn't take much from Cleric or Druid, but could have a Paladin's Channel Divinity. They could snag a champion's improved critical or deflect missiles from the monk, although they would need key points to throw it back. Let me know what you think or how I could improve it. Keep being great. Well, thank you very much, Timothy, for the kind words and the question. I will say, this feels like a thing that doesn't necessarily have to just apply to rogues. So let's start there. It's like a rogue subclass, but it's like, you could do this with anything. such that you could kind of combine any class with any class. So for starters, I'll say, I don't know that it has to be specifically rogue, because that's how all characters are kind of run in 5e these days, right? Where it's like at level 2 or level 3 or whatever it is, you pick your path, so to speak, and then as a result you get abilities from that. That's an interesting idea, but I'd stay away from blanket learning like that. Creating a list of features to pick at each level would be better. Yes, that's a good point that Flint make, and one that I was going to bring up actually. So yeah, starting with the fact that it doesn't necessarily have to be for rogue, it can kind of be for anything. And on that note, I think it's a cool idea. Overall, I think it's really neat. I'm sure that somebody could break it immediately. Like, I mean, there's, I'm sure, a way to bust this. But I think to Flint's point, another way to kind of double up on that would be to make it from a list of choices, such that somebody doesn't go find something in a book somewhere and be like, well, you see, technically they get this at level 9, so I can get it. And then they just totally break everything. Sounds very Bard, like Jack of all. Yeah, a little bit. So there were some other things too that you mentioned in your email that didn't make it onto the framing. You'd brought up Action Surge, right? Like, so Action Surge, for example, at level 17, because Action Surge's fighters get it at level 2, right? So you couldn't take it with this thing, but you could take it at level 17. But it's an ability that's given at level 2. It's an upgrade to an ability that's given at level 2. So I'd say, so you said that you would need to have the original Action Surge, which I tend to agree with. Like, and I also just made a note, like, the best way to limit it is with prereqs. So what you could do is you could have a pool of stuff to have them select from, and then as long as they get the prereqs, then as long as they meet the prerequisites, then they're good to go. They can do whatever it was. That inherently, I think, like, prerequisites keep things from being busted just inherently, because it's like, well, you have to be able to do this, etc. And to Flint point, and 3/5 does feats every 3rd level. Yeah. If you're like a human fighter, level 3, I think you get like 3 or 4 feats. So yeah, and I really like Flint's point about having a list that you draw from, as opposed to just like anything that exists you can do. It's like, that seems insane. You'd have to meet the prerequisites to it. And to your point about like taking deflect missiles, like, I'm the kind of DM that wouldn't allow that on the basis of them not having any key points. To your point, it's like, that's required. Now, if they had a level in Monk, we'd be having a totally different conversation. But that's more of a multi-class, as opposed to this like kind of cool twist you've done on a subclass where it's like you can do different stuff. See what else chat's saying. Level 3 almost always, especially in the 1 play test. It sounds like a min-maxer's wet dream. Yeah, I'm sure that it would be very easy to exploit, but not, I think, if you did those limitations on prereqs and lists. Aside from being able to fine-tune balancing better with a list, you can also nudge abilities to be more roguey as you like. Yeah, and it almost makes it like a fun... It almost makes it like a custom subclass, because you know... You might have a rogue that's more strength than dexterity for whatever reason, whether that has to do with build or RP. And so as a result, you could then pick your abilities accordingly. But Portals and Planes book is some subclasses you wouldn't want to get in the way, not gonna just hand out Time Walk. Yeah, definitely. So I think it's a really cool idea. I'd say expand it beyond just it being a rogue subclass. I think you could apply it to any character. But as such, you need to have those kind of restrictions and limitations as to prereqs and as to, what am I thinking? Having a list, having it limited to a list, as opposed to just like anything they can find. Because if you tell a D&D player to find something busted, they'll find it quick, fast, and in a hurry. Always enjoyed playing a brawny rogue like an enforcer for a criminal organization. Nice. Just play 3/5. That's what you're looking for. Yeah. Oh man, that's a bar, Scapelli. He's not wrong. I mean, it really is 3-5. Because you just, I mean, you're customized with like how many feats and stuff. You know, in 3-5 they were just feats. There were 1,000 feats, and you could just pick one as long as you met the prereqs. You got it. So, but yeah, this is cool. I encourage it. Keep it going. Make sure that it's limited because you don't want people to bust it. Because I'll do it. All right. The last question of the evening, as one might expect, since we've not had one yet, is from Chris. And this was actually one that came in this afternoon, so it was an interesting one. So let's talk about it. Chris asks, "Hey Charles, happy Black Friday. I hope your Thanksgiving was great. I thought of a question over the normal chaos of the yearly politics talk. Which class would you pick to be the leader of your nation? Which would you trust the least? Assuming all candidates were carbon copies of your ideal leader, just differing in their class. All the best to you and yours." Well, thank you for the question, Chris. Interesting. I'm glad that we didn't really get into any of that yesterday, thankfully. We just had lots of pie. But this is what I wrote down. Well, assuming that the candidates are carbon copies, I don't suppose that the class would matter all that much. But instinctually, when I read this class, I immediately thought of like a wizard or like an archivist, because archivists, specifically an archivist, they get comprehend languages. It's helpful. They get detect thoughts, locate creature. I mean, those are pretty helpful skills to have in leadership. I said really any spellcaster, but you know, if I'm just doing like knee-jerk reactions just based on class, I trust the rogue and the bard the least. Speaking on half of that from experience, and then the druid and the cleric the most. I don't really know why. Maybe it's because like inherently druids and clerics seem to be connected more to like the spiritual realm of like life and you know, the higher powers. But you could make that argument for anything, for warlocks, for so yeah, I mean, my ideal leader, everything being the same, would probably be like a druid archivist woman. Like that's probably where I would go. But one note that I made, and what I believe to be true, is that backstory matters more than class. And I think that that's true of anything. Certainly, I think it's true of the way things are done, politics in this place, unfortunately, is that, you know, people focus so much on the class and the letter and the other, instead of focusing on just like the backstory. Just look at somebody's backstory. It tells you a lot. Where they came from, how they got there, etc. Let's see what chat's saying. Lots of wizards I'm seeing. Wizard or paladin. Wizard for a good leader. Bard for a bad leader. Wizard doesn't need a body double, and they have simulacrum. Cleric for me, despite knowing how bad of an idea that is. Librarian, historian. Paladin would probably be the best choice for leader. Everyone forgets about the paladin. Actually, not true. I didn't forget about the paladin. In fact, that was going to be one of my first answers. But then it occurred to me that, like, you know, paladins got a little bit of a they got a little bit of a power trip going on, right? Because it's like they're the protectors of good. They dole out punishment against the evil, but it's like, who says what's evil? You and your god? I mean, the cleric's kind of that way too, but I feel like the cleric's a little further away from their deity than the paladin. I feel like the paladin is like on a mission, and the cleric is just kind of like serving in service of the god in general. Maybe now, but 3-5 paladin had to be lawful. We would have too many theocrats in power. I don't think I'd trust clerics or paladins. Yeah, it might be best to keep religion away. That's my instinct was wizard, archivist, artificer. People that are like not doing that. People that are more focused on, like, I don't know, improving things. This episode has given you an idea for a character you may need to create. Well, good. I'm glad to hear it. I hope that all of our episodes inspire content. They all can be terrible. Have differentiate on which edition 3.5. True. Yeah, well, because, hey, you know, a 3.5 paladin is a no-brainer leader because they're lawful good. And they have to be. Paladin leader would make for a good sympathetic villain. The road to hell is paved with good intentions and all that. That's true. That's true. The other thing in all of this, too, is that this is all assuming that I would only want one leader, which I'm not too keen on, honestly. I'd more likely want to have there be a council of leaders. And hey, if they're all carbon copies and they're all the same class, we'll just let them lead. Whatever it is, 13 or 15, hopefully an odd number. That'd be preferable, you know, for that old democratic thing with the voting. But, yeah, I mean, everybody is like... most people are cool with a dictator if that dictator is going to be doing things that they agree with, right? So I think that that's tricky too. It's like, well, you know, I don't know if I would be, if assuming I'm in charge of putting this person in there, I'd probably rather have a bit of a council, a little bit of a checks and balance type system as opposed to just one person, a party of bards, council of kangs. Oh man. We all know the U.S. president will be a gunslinger fighter, though. Yeah, no doubt. I feel like that's just like you get that at level 1 when you're here. So, all right, well, let's do a little bit of chat. Let's see what's going on out there. How was your Thanksgivings? We could talk about that. I had a great one. My wife and I did a little bit of driving, not too much, to my sister-in-law's house for Thanksgiving, and had a very enjoyable dinner and brought home some leftovers. And today, most of the time I've spent just kind of resting and just laying around and catching up on sleep, although I've got some work to do. Good things for this week. You got your Xbox Series X. Oh, that's fun. Yeah, what are the good things of the week besides Thanksgiving? Xbox Series X. Man, now, Pirate, we just need them to release BG3 on Xbox, and we'll be good to go. You did absolutely nothing, and it was glorious. I can certainly relate. That's been most of my day. I haven't done absolutely nothing. I did go out and run a few errands, but most of it's just been chill, and that's what I hope for this weekend to be. And I guess my good thing of the week is that my album came out. Jeez. Finally. It's always so, it's just like, you know, I know that I did, like, give a couple of dates that were wrong. I try not to do that because this just tends to happen to me. It's just the nature of putting stuff out, I guess. But like when it comes time to get to it, it's like everything goes wrong. It's not as easy as you thought it would be. Succeeded on your save versus pumpkin pie roll. So good. Had dinner here. He was asleep 25 minutes after everyone left. A good thing happened when I got pulled AFK. It was updated on an inheritance you've been waiting for, and it's more than you were expecting. Whoa, let's go. That's fun. Grandson started walking. Get out of here. That's good. That's great news. They'll be walking all over around for Christmas. Chilling all weekend, not doing anything. Most definitely. Listen to Organized Lightning while cooking Thursday morning. I'm glad. So many pies. Oh, man, I would take them. I love pie. Oh, man, I'm going to have some after this, because I've got some in the fridge. We got chocolate silk pie and lemon meringue pie and cherry pie. Oh, man, pie is good stuff. You have a date for nerve surgery. Awesome. Full dinner in peace. Just you and the sweetie at home. That's great. Follow the song you wrote years ago. Yeah, Pyra, actually, Follow is the first song I ever wrote. I wrote it when I was like 14, maybe 15, on the bass guitar. And originally, and it's that way on my channel, like the original video from like 15 years ago at this point, it was originally just me and just the vocals and the bass. And song helped me build it out as like a full band kind of piece. And just the general feel of it, I'm really happy with. I feel like it like turned out a little bit of nostalgia in there. I got to see my family on Thanksgiving. It's been a while. Feels good to see all the holiday decorations popping up. Yeah, that's true. Grandson can go get you things now. Oh, that's true. Yeah, you could send him on trips. You could, hey, go bring me this. Oh, I'm glad you liked it, Pirate. Yeah, definitely. It's in fact the chord progression, at least for portions of the song, is just Blink-182's "Damn It." So it's like, um, yeah, it's definitely like a late '90s, early 2000s type feel because that's when I wrote it. So, finished streaming Grimm, really enjoyed it. Oh yeah, I need to do that. Maybe cookies. Yeah, I want to start baking stuff. My monitor died, which has been a blessing in disguise. Can't afford to replace it, but it's giving me more time to focus on your campaign. Been drawing maps and designing encounters all week. Well, that's good, River. Maybe you could find a monitor on the cheap with one of these deals we're supposed to be having this weekend. Almost done. Carnival Row, very cool. Doctor Who tomorrow. Is 5e just Redbox D&D and 3.5 is advanced? I don't know how to answer that. I guess. Depends on who you're asking, right? I mean, if somebody started with 3.5, they probably wouldn't consider 3.5 to be very advanced, but use your TV as a monitor. That's my second monitor as a TV, actually. It's just a TV. Because you could just get one of those. 3.5 is definitely more, what is it, complex. Well, I think that 3.5 is just in more pieces. They just put all the pieces together in 5e. Like, because you know how in like 5e, it's like, if you run Ranger in 5e, I think it's at like, what, level 3, where you pick like whatever path you're going to do, whether it's like Gloomstalker or whatever the choices are. Those are just things that used to exist in 3.5 as either a la carte feats, spells, or multi-classes. You know, 3.5 used to release books with just like tons of multi-classes, and there'd be certain prerequisites that you would need to meet in your base class in order to get into the multi-class, and then you could do the multi-class. But now, instead of doing that so much, they just kind of say, well, here's the Ranger, and then here are all of the best things that you could do as a Ranger with all of the stuff from 3.5. They're just streamlined and put together in a subclass, so you just pick your path, pick your poison. Favorite song prior listening to Alchemist Fire, but now you have to say it's tied with D&D Every Day. Oh yeah, D&D, I was happy with how D&D Every Day turned out. New headlight for the Harley was your highlight. Nice. Listen to it on Amazon Prime Music. 3.5 is over. 5e is oversimplified. Yeah, I agree. I prefer 3.5. Harley needs a new battery. 2e and 3.5 both have had the quantity over quality book release schedule. No GL, yeah. Well, the No GL one, so some of the songs on the album were singles. No GL's from like, I didn't do much changes on them too for the album, although Existential Avalanche I added like bookends of audio pieces that didn't exist before. Got money on the Jags to whoop Texans butt Sunday. Oh man, I'll be honest, I'm a little worried about that game, and not so much the game in general as I am just like worried about CJ Stroud in a good way. That kid's way mad talented. He's like breaking rookie records and stuff. And you know, we as the Jags have a tendency to snatch defeat from the jaws of victory, but I mean, we looked good last week. It was a nice bounce back from the tragedy that was the San Francisco game. It was nice to see us not only bounce back, but also like look really capable out there. We looked really solid. You know, we have all of our main receivers out there. Should be worried about the Tampa Bay Jags game. I ain't worried about Tampa. Anybody worried about Tampa? I'm worried about Houston, mostly because of CJ Stroud. I'm worried about that Baltimore game, which I might go to, because that's at home and that's a night game. That might be the move. I try to go to one game a year. That might be the one. Thoughts on Seminoles versus Gators with the quarterback injury? Oh yeah, I don't know. FSU is really, really good, but if they don't have their main guy, Matt Colville has painted D&D 4E in a good light for me, and I wouldn't be opposed to trying it. Really? Listen, I don't think that 4E is total trash. Obviously, I'm sure that there are things about it that are good, but for me, I guess I initially got turned off by 4E when I found out that there were no negative modifiers to racial traits anymore. It was just like, for me, then it was just like, oh, well, so you just get things? Like, you don't have to do any kind of exchange? There's no full metal going on? That's annoying. So that kind of turned me off of it. And then, 5e is just like 3.5 on, is just like simplified and on steroids, I guess. But getting a little chilly to be writing, though. Oh, yeah, that's true. It is finally starting to get cold. See the Netflix on documentary about the Gators. I have not. Although I did see the documentary on Netflix about the ghost train fire in Sydney, Australia in the late 70s. That's a really crazy documentary. And then also my wife and I have been watching The Crown, which has been really interesting, honestly. It's a lot of the new season. It's got a lot of the Diana, more of the Diana story, and it's kind of fascinating stuff. Makes me glad that I wasn't ever born into the royal family. Jeez. 40 had some cool ideas, but executed pretty poorly. Not really any room for build experimentation. So they limit you on what you can do. That sounds like wizards. Okay, well, geez, gang, we're already here at the end again. As usual, these things go by faster and faster each time. But hey, we're 49 episodes down, which means next week, another Bop Bruin, Adorbs, my album came out yesterday, the day before. Organized Lightning. It's available everywhere you listen to music. There's 10 new ones for you. But we are here at the end. So, as we like to do before we get out of here, remind everyone of the email, which is bardadvice@gmail.com. If you want to get some merchandise, you can do so at manshorts.com. And if you want to contribute to anything that I'm doing musically, notably my third album, which just released, Organized Lightning, you can do so directly via PayPal, Cash App, or Venmo, all of which are Yazik, Yahzick. Something that I didn't do at the top of the episode, and I should do it now. Apologies. Would like to give a big thanks to all of our patrons, members, super chatters, everyone for liking, for viewing the videos, liking, commenting, subscribing, sharing. Please rate the podcast on your respective platforms. And if you're able to, please rate my album. I'd be interested to hear what you have to say about it. As I mentioned, I'm in the process of getting all of those songs shifted over to where they need to be, so hopefully that'll be resolved. Let's see. We will be back here next week. Same Bard time, same Bard channel, 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And yeah, I think that's it, folks. So I hope you have a good one, and we'll see you next time.